Alright, today we're going to be talking about Chapter 10, Lesson 2. This is all about measures of variability. So we're going to be talking about two specifically, and then we're going to be talking about how we can use those two to help us to find some outliers. So first of all, range. Range is the distance between the maximum point and the minimum. So what we do is we take our max and we subtract the min. The interquartile range is a little bit more difficult to find. The interquartile range is the range between quartile 3 and quartile 1. Now, what we have to do in order to find this is we have to find the median, and that cuts the data in between the lower half and the upper half. Quartile 1, this is the median of lower half, and this, quartile 3, is the median of upper half. And I'll show you how to do that and find that, and how to use the interquartile range to find some information that we're going to use later in this lesson. So, let's look at finding the range first. So letter A, we have the range for hours worked, and we want to look for the max minus the min, remember. So the maximum value here is 57, 58, 59. This is the maximum value. So we're going to do 59. The minimum value is this one here. Now there's two of them, but that's okay. And we're going to subtract those two numbers. So 59 minus 33. So the range would be 26. Letter B. We don't necessarily need to put these in order from least to greatest. We just need to be able to find the lowest number and the largest number. So going through here, here's the lowest number here. And this is the largest number. So I'd have 91 minus 38. And if I go ahead and do that, the range would be 53. The range is pretty simple and straightforward to find. It's the quartiles that are a little bit more difficult. So when we look at quartiles, we need to find the median first. So the first step is find the median. So what we have to do is we start crossing off from each side. And now we have two numbers left in the middle, which means that it's the mean of these two numbers. So the mean of 18 and 22 would be 20. So here is the median. This right here is the lower half. And this right here then would be the upper half. So, after we've found the median, we then, quartile 1 is the median of lower half, and quartile 3 is the median of upper half. So, let's do the lower half first. So let's cross off from each side, each side. This right here, we would call quartile 1. And then the third quartile, that's the median of the upper half, so we start crossing off again from each side. And that would be right here. This is the third quartile. Those pieces of information will help us create box and whisker plots. I know you have done that in the past. But that information there will help us to create box and whisker plots, which will help us to compare data, which is our next lesson, or sorry, the lesson after that, lesson 4. Now, this set right here, this first area, this is really called the first quartile because it's the first quarter of the data. This quartile 1, or this first quartile here, Q1, that's the end of the first quartile. This set of data right here, this is called the second quartile because it's the second quarter of the data. This set right here, this is called the third quartile because it's the third quarter of the data, and this Q3, that's the end of the third quarter. And the last set over here, this is called the fourth quartile. So quartile represents the quarters, and where they end is what we call first quartile and third quartile. So here, this whole set is the first quartile, the end of it is Q1. This whole set is the second quartile, the end of it is the median, because now we've gotten the first and second together, that's the lower half. This next section is the third quartile, the end of it is called Q3, and the second is called the fourth quartile. So let's use that information to help us solve some problems. So, find the measures of variability. Let's find the range. So we need to put these in order from least to greatest, because we're going to be looking for the interquartile range as well. So 11, 14, 15, here's 16, 23, 26, 30, and 37. So the range would be 37 minus 11, and 37 minus 11 is 26. So that's the range. Interquartile range, now we need to find the median first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to be right in the middle. So the median of 16 and 23 would be the mean. And if we do that, we would get 19.5 as our median. Now, first quartile is the median of this lower half. So because there's a still an even number, we're going to be right in between, and that's going to be 14.5. And over on this side, we're still right in between. Mean of 26 and 30 would be 28. So we would do 28 minus 14.5, and our interquartile range would be 13.5. Okay, so now that we have the interquartile range, we can use this to help us find any outliers. So what we need to do is multiply the interquartile range by 1.5. The reason why we do that is that way we can extend the area of our data that is actually going to be okay for us to use, and anything outside of that area will be called our outlier. So, first of all, we do 1.5 times 13.5, and that gets us 20.25. We're then going to add it to the third quartile to extend that box to the right, and subtract it from the first quartile to extend the box in the other direction. So we have 28 plus 20.25, and that equals 48.25. Down here we have 14.5 minus 20.25, and that is equal to a negative 5.75. So these are the new constraints that our data can fit into, and if it doesn't fit into that area, it's called an outlier. So first of all, our maximum data point is 37. That's less than the maximum that it could be, so that's okay. Our lowest data point, that's 11, and that's greater than the least amount that it could be, which means that since everything fits in between these two areas, there are no outliers. There are none. But let's look at example 3 hot now. So it says the cost of books are $5, $2.50, $6, $4.50, $3, $8, $3, $14, and $5. So let's go ahead and write these in from least to greatest. So this 2.5, so that's gone. We have 2 3s. So both of those are gone. We have a 4.5. We have 1 2 5s. We have a 6. We have an 8. And we have a 14. So now what we're going to do is we got to find the median again. So we're going to start crossing off from each side. And it looks like this 5 is right in the middle. So now we're going to move and look at the median in between this first quartile here. So that would be between the 3 and the 3, which would be a 3. And on the upper half, we go in between, and that would be between the 6 and 8, and that's going to be 7. So the interquartile range would be 7 minus 3, and that's 4. Same thing we did above. We're going to do 1.5 times 4, and that equals 6. We're going to go at 7 plus 6 is 13, and 3 minus 6 is negative 3. So these are the constraints that our data can fit into. So let's look at this. The maximum number is 14. That's greater than the maximum that it could be. So 14 is an outlier. And then 2.5 is the least amount on here, and that is greater than the least amount it could be. So the only outlier would be 14. All right, so that's the end of lesson 2. If you have any questions, please let me know.